This story happened to Brian, a quiet guy who was rather withdrawn and did not argue with anyone. But at his school, there was a group of bullies who enjoyed bullying people like him. Tracy stood out the most, a tall, tough guy who was always the center of attention. On the evening before Halloween, Tracy and his friends decided to have fun with Brian, luring him to an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town.
Hey, Brian, do you want to prove that you are not a coward?
Tracy teased him, making the others giggle.
A night in the warehouse, and we will leave you alone.
Brian refused at first, but not wanting humiliation and constant ridicule, he eventually agreed. He knew that it was a trap, but he thought he could survive one night. He was scared, but had no choice. When they got to the warehouse, Tracy and his friends locked the doors from the outside, so Brian couldn't escape.
Good night, hero.
Tracy shouted, slamming the heavy metal door. It was dark and silent inside. Brian felt panic rising in him, but he forced himself to calm down. He turned on the flashlight on his phone and went to explore the room, trying not to think about the eerie sounds that were coming from around him. The warehouse was huge and had been abandoned for many years. The smell of rot, old dust, and dampness soaked into the walls. Boxes, broken furniture, and rusty tools were scattered everywhere. But what caught Brian's attention most were the old, cracked mirrors, of which there were a surprisingly large number in the warehouse. At one point, he saw his reflection in one of the mirrors and noticed that it did not quite reflect him. At first, Brian thought he was imagining it, but as soon as he looked closely, he noticed that his reflection did not move in time with him. It stood motionless and looked at him like a living copy that was about to emerge from the mirror.
Hey, are you okay in there?
Tracy's voice suddenly rang out from outside. It seemed as if he was still enjoying the situation.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Brian responded, trying to keep his voice even, although in reality, he wanted to run away from this place as far as possible. But suddenly his reflection slowly smiled and said barely audibly, as if in a whisper, "Don't go." Brian recoiled in horror and ran away from the mirror, but as soon as he took a step back, he was surrounded by pitch darkness. The light from the phone went out, and a strange whisper was heard around him, as if the voices of many people were talking at the same time, overlapping each other. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, Brian saw shadows that were slowly approaching him. The figures were barely distinguishable, but with each step they were getting closer. He ran, stumbling in the darkness, but wherever he went, the warehouse seemed endless, as if it was not moving from the spot. And then the light of the flashlight flickered for a moment and illuminated Tracy and his friends. They were motionless, with empty eyes, and their faces were strangely distorted, as if they had become part of the darkness of the warehouse.
Guys, stop messing around.
Brian shouted, but his voice died away in the ominous silence. They did not answer. He realized that these were not his friends, but their shadows, which remained in this place, like trapped souls. Fear seized him. Suddenly he heard the same whisper that sounded from all sides, but now much closer.
Stay with us forever. Stay with us forever. Stay with us forever.
Brian rushed to the door and, fortunately, it was not locked. He ran out of the warehouse and found himself under the light of a street lamp, breathing heavily and looking back. There was no one on the street, and the warehouse looked like an old, empty building again. After making sure that no one was chasing him, he ran home. The next day, Tracy and his friends did not show up at school. When they started looking for them, the only place where they were last seen was that abandoned warehouse. The rescuers and police found only their phones and strange mirrors inside, each of which reflected distorted, terrifying shadows of the teenagers, as if they were stuck there forever. Brian never went near that warehouse again and never told anyone about that night.